This Rugged Ridge Spartan front bumper is going to be for those of you that have a 2007 to 2018 JK that are looking for a bumper that's going to add some protection, change up the style of your Jeep, and also add some additional off-road functionality that you just don't get from your factory front bumper. This bumper in particular is going to be a little bit less expensive than some of the other ones that you can find. It is a multiple piece bumper. It doesn't have all of the gusseting and the strength built into it that some of the other bumpers do have. So if you really plan to punish your bumper, you plan on bouncing off rocks and off-road obstacles, you may want to find one that's a little beefier than this one is. But if you don't plan on smashing your bumper into a bunch of stuff, this is still going to be plenty strong and still offer some really nice off-road features that we'll talk about in just a second. This is going to be a pretty easy 1 out of 3 wrench installation. Again, it is a multiple piece bumper, so there's a little bit more assembly to do, but it's still going to bolt right in place. Everything just attaches with nut and bolt hardware, so it's still very simple, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. So when you are searching for bumpers, you're going to find ones that are various widths, various designs, so aesthetically different, and then also different functionality. And again, I've mentioned a couple times now, I really do like the fact that this has a lot of off-road features built into it, all at a lower price than some of the other choices. Rugged Ridge does offer quite a few different modular front bumpers, and those are going to be a bumper base with a bunch of pieces that you can add on to really build a custom bumper. This is not going to be that. This does come in a couple of pieces, but this isn't customizable in that way. This is going to come as the main bumper piece. Then there's also a section in the center here that's going to be your winch plate. And then of course you have your tube over here that gets mounted up top, giving you a couple of additional light mounts. So I said that this bumper doesn't have all of the gusseting and all of the strength pieces built into it that you'll find in some of the other bumpers. And part of the reason for that is the fact that this is modular. So you have your winch plate that gets bolted directly to the frame. That's the part that really needs to be very, very strong. You mount your winch on that. That's for recovery purposes. Again, that needs a ton of strength. Then you have your D-ring mounts on the front here. They bolt through the bumper to the frame horn. So again, you need a ton of strength there. They get bolted directly to the frame as well. So there's really nothing about the bumper itself that needs to be structural. It's really more of an aesthetic piece, really more of a cover than anything else at that point because of the way that this is designed. So the fact that it doesn't have a lot of those additional pieces built into it isn't really a knock on this bumper. It's just the different type of design that this has versus some of the other choices out there. So getting back into some of the features that this has that I do like, again, a winch plate, that's gonna be great for recoveries. 2 D-ring mounts, again, awesome for recoveries. This does allow you to mount your factory fog lights in the front bumper. So if you have a factory plastic front bumper on your JK, you can bolt those fog lights right into this bumper. That's something I really, really like. You already have the wiring, you already have the lights, the switch is there. Why not be able to use your factory lights? This bumper will allow you to do that. And then of course you have the hoop up on top here. That's not really for any kind of additional protection, really. It's more of an aesthetic piece, but it does have 2 light mount tabs here and here. So as that piece is up on top here, you have a spot for a couple of additional auxiliary lights. So overall, I like the features that this bumper has. I think you're still gonna get a ton of strength where it's necessary, the winch plate and the recovery points. And I think you're gonna be able to save yourself some money by going with this bumper over some of the other options out there. As I said, this bumper is gonna be a little bit less expensive than some of the other choices that you can find. This comes in at $350. So this isn't going to be a bargain basement bumper that doesn't have any sort of strength, has a horrible coating. That's not this. This is still a very well built, very well thought out bumper. As I said, it has all the strength that it needs where it needs it in those D-ring mounts and in that winch mount. Has some nice features, has a good coating on it. Overall, I think it's a very good bumper for the cost. Now we'll have a member of the install team show you how you get this bolted up.
First thing we're gonna do is open the hood and remove the grill. To do so, you're gonna need a pry tool, and there's 6 push pins on the top of the grill to pull out, and we'll get the grill out. We can go ahead and use our pry tool and remove the 6 push pins on the top of our grill. All right, we're gonna remove our grill now. We can pull straight out on this to release the metal clips on the bottom. Once we've got the grill out, we can disconnect our turn signals. Next, we're gonna remove the closeout panel. There's 2 push pins that we need to remove. We'll be using our pry tool again. There are 8 nuts on the inside of the bumper that we need to remove. to uninstall our bumper. I have an 18mm socket on my ratchet. Now the next two are going to be on the inside of the frame rail. Once you've got all 8 nuts off of your bumper, you can remove it. We'll just slide it off of the studs and we'll set this aside. Now that we've got our stock bumper off, we're gonna take this time to remove our factory fog lights because we are gonna use these in our new bumper. So all you're gonna need is a Phillips head screwdriver or a Phillips head tip on your drill, and we'll come in and unscrew the 4 screws that hold our factory fog lights in our factory bumper. Once you got them unscrewed, go ahead and just pull them right out. So once we've got everything uninstalled, we're gonna go ahead and reinstall our grille. It's gonna go back on the same way it came off. We'll start off by putting our turn signal bulbs back in. Get our bottom clipped in place. And we'll put our 6 push pins back in the top. Next thing we're going to do is loosely install our winch plate. What we need to do is take a nut plate here, slide it in the front of the frame horn, and grab an M10 bolt and washer. And once you have your winch plate on top of the frame rail, stick your nut plate through the hole here, and we'll get one of these bolts started. All right, we have our new bumper on the table here. We're ready to put our factory fog lights into the new bumper. So we'll just drop them in place using the supplied hardware. We can drop a screw right down and we will get a nut on the back side of this. So this stuff is really small, so have some patience. We're now ready to install our bumper. Once you've got your new bumper in place, we need to get it bolted up now. So take the D-ring mounting plate and the supplied hardware, and on the 2 outside holes, we're gonna get a bolt started. The 2 outside holes get nuts. The 2 inside holes get a nut plate that I'll show you in a little bit. So once you've got them started, we can crawl underneath now and get 2 nuts started. We're not going to tighten them up, we're just going to get them started. So for the 2 inside holes, we're going to utilize this nut plate here. You need to slide the nut plate up behind the bumper, get one of your bolts in and started. So what I'm going to do is get my holes lined up first. So with 1 bolt in, I'm going to try and get my nut plate started. All right, we can do the same thing on this side of the Jeep now. We'll put our D-ring plate up and we're gonna get our 2 outside bolts started first. I'm gonna reach under and get a nut started. Next up is the nut plate. So I'm gonna get one of these started. And I'm gonna go underneath now and try and get the nut plate started. Next thing we're gonna do is bolt our bumper to the winch plate. We're gonna use the supplied hardware with a washer. So we're gonna get all these started loosely first, and then we'll go back through and tighten them all up. And I have a 5mm Allen wrench here. Rugged Ridge does supply you with an Allen wrench. I'm using my own. It's gonna make it a little bit easier. With all 4 of these bolts started on the bumper to winch plate here, I'm going to now tighten them all down. I have a 5mm Allen wrench on my impact gun. I'm going to get these snugged up. We can now tighten up our bumper bolts. I have a 19mm socket for the outside bolts and a 19mm wrench for the inside nuts. Since we have a nut plate on the inside of these 2, we don't need to hold the back side. The last step of this install is going to be to install our overrider. So we're going to place this on top of the bumper. We will take the supplied nut plate, we're going to stick it underneath, and we're going to get some bolts started in this. It'll be a little bit of a balancing act. I'm going to get one started. And that's going to hold my nut plate up for me. So what we want to do is get all 6 of these started loosely first before we tighten one side down. Once we get all 6 started, we can go through and tighten them all down at once. We're going to do the same thing on the other side of the Jeep now. I'll get this nut plate started. All right, we're gonna put our Rugged Ridge emblem on the bumper now. You guys can put this wherever you would like. I'm gonna place it right under the left side of the overrider. And again, you can put this wherever you desire. That's where I'm gonna place ours. That's gonna wrap up our review and install. Be sure to check this bumper out and more at ExtremeTerrain.com.